Your buddy have one as well. Place your hands behind the back for it. All right, under arrest.
We'll find them. We'll find my guns.
Just multiple guns.
I got a stick, the AR.
Right. Well, the driver told me.
My son. Think I ain't spoke to my son. Think I ain't told my son, his mama and his grandmamas. His ass going to prison. You goddamn keep it up.
Breaking news, folks. The hip-hop world is absolutely exploding tonight. And trust me, this one's going down as one of the biggest disasters in rap history. T just collapsed in court, yes. You read that right after the judge slammed his son, King Harris, with a 5-year prison sentence. And why? Well, because of an arrest that's already blowing up social media. This isn't just some random arrest. Oh no, this is a full-on saga involving guns, drugs, betrayal, and the slow, painful collapse of a family dynasty that everyone thought was invincible. Let's talk details, shall we? Body cam footage reveals the shocking moment King's luxury BMW was searched and the treasures they found inside. Bags of cocaine, marijuana, and a mountain of illegal pills tucked under the seats. We're talking enough to make people wonder if King was running a full-fledged drug empire. But wait, it gets juicier. A mysterious passenger was reportedly seen fleeing the scene, yet somehow the cops refused to ID this person. Sounds fishy, right? Is this some kind of cover-up? Is someone out there pulling the strings while King takes the fall? And here's the gut punch just weeks before all this madness went down. King posted on Instagram celebrating his new role as a father. "Welcome, my son. Time to take over." Yeah, instead of taking over fatherhood, he's now taking a one-way trip to prison. The heart-wrenching image of his newborn growing up without him has left millions of fans devastated and furious, especially considering T warned his son years ago about the consequences. But nothing could stop this tragic spiral. When the judge dropped the hammer and sentenced King to 5 years, T couldn't handle it. Witnesses say he collapsed in his seat while his daughter screamed in pure agony. Hold on tight, because this is way more than just a scandal, it's the destruction of an entire legacy. Picture this, a night in Atlanta that's going to be etched in everyone's memory forever. What started as just another reckless drive for King Harris quickly spiraled into a nightmare that even his legendary father, T.I., couldn't have dreamed up. Suddenly, the freeway lit up with flashing blue lights and the sirens wailed in the distance. Within seconds, the world of one of hip-hop's most iconic families came crashing down. King, barely old enough to legally drink, was cruising in his shiny BMW when he got pulled over. At first, it looked like just another routine traffic stop, nothing special for a young celebrity known for making headlines for all the wrong reasons. But once the cops surrounded the car, things took a drastic turn. When they opened the door, body cam footage showed King chilling in his seat, almost too calm, like a guy who'd already given up on trying to outrun the inevitable. But then came the real shocker. As the officers searched under the seats, they uncovered a stash that turned this arrest into a full-blown national spectacle. Cocaine packets, bags of marijuana, dozens of illegal pills, and just to spice things up, a loaded firearm ready to go. This wasn't a case of some spoiled celebrity kid just trying to act tough. Oh no, this was the beginning of a much darker story. And just like that, the world realized King Harris was in way over his head, a nightmare of his own making. Body cam footage captured one officer whispering to his partner, "This isn't personal use, this is bigger." And boom, those words set the internet on fire. Within hours, the hashtags #TISS on #DrugScandal and #KHARRIS arrest were trending worldwide. Fans, critics, and every corner of the internet couldn't wrap their heads around it. How on earth could the son of one of hip-hop's most revered icons get caught with enough drugs and weapons to make people think he's connected to a full-blown trafficking ring? And this wasn't just speculation. Reporters dove into King's reckless history like sharks in a feeding frenzy. They resurfaced the infamous Waffle House fight, his countless speeding tickets, and his love for flashing guns in his music videos. Suddenly, every dumb move he made in the past looked like a glaring sign of the disaster unfolding before everyone's eyes. But the real gut punch came when a 2022 clip of T resurfaced, sounding like a prophet warning the world, "If my son don't change, prison gone be his destiny." Back then, it seemed like just another tough love moment. Now, those words look like a curse that came true. But the drama didn't end there. As the news broke that drugs had been found in King's car, whispers turned into full-blown accusations. Was he just a troubled kid spiraling out of control? Or was he being used as a pawn in a much bigger game? Oh, and let's not forget the mysterious passenger who supposedly fled the scene before the cops could even catch him. Witnesses swear someone else was in the car, shadowy figure with a hidden identity. Was he the real mastermind behind all this? Or is law enforcement covering up something much uglier? The silence from the cops? Yeah, that only made people more suspicious, fueling the fire and sparking even more wild conspiracy theories. Why keep the identity of the mysterious passenger hidden? Why let everyone think King was alone in this mess? Theories erupted faster than you can say conspiracy. Some folks believe T.I.'s connections are covering up the truth. Others screamed that the justice system is corrupt, pointing out how celebrities get special treatment while regular folks would have been locked up for life. But behind all the theories and outrage, there was something far more gut-wrenching. Just weeks before this arrest, King Harris became a father. He posted a picture on Instagram, proudly showing off his newborn son with the caption, "Welcome, my son. Time to take over." Fans were hoping fatherhood would be his wake-up call, that moment of maturity he needed. Instead, those same pictures turned into symbols of tragedy. A newborn baby, born into a legacy now, tarnished by crime and scandal. One viral comment summed it up perfectly. "That baby doesn't deserve this." The kid's first few weeks of life, and his dad is already facing 5 years behind bars. Then came the courtroom drama. When the judge slammed down the gavel and announced that 5-year sentence, the room went dead silent. Time, for a split second, literally stopped. Witnesses said T clutched his chest, leaned back, and collapsed into his chair, totally crushed by the weight of what just happened. His daughter's scream pierced the air, echoing off the walls, and breaking the hearts of everyone who heard it. This wasn't just the fall of a rapper's son. This was the fall of a father's hope, the obliteration of a family's pride, and the painful reminder that no amount of money, fame, or power can protect you from the ruthless hand of fate. And the media. Oh, they plastered every moment across every screen, because this was a tragedy too big to ignore. Headlines were flashing across every screen. Hip-hop royalty crumbles. King Harris sentenced. T collapses in court after son's 5-year prison term from Stage 2 scandal. A dynasty in ruins. The world couldn't look away. Fans were divided. Was King a victim of circumstance or a criminal who got what he deserved? Some saw him as just a kid who lost his way, while others believed he was a criminal who had to face the consequences. But one thing was absolutely crystal clear. The Harris family was in shambles. This was no longer a private family matter. Oh no. This was America's tragedy unfolding right in front of everyone's eyes. From the moment King Harris was dragged into custody, cameras were rolling, and the nation knew this was bigger than just drugs, guns, or reckless driving. This was about a family empire on the verge of collapse, a father's chilling prophecy coming true, and the brutal cost of fame when it slams headfirst into reality. As King entered that courtroom, shackled and dressed in a plain prison jumpsuit, the air was thick with tension. Gone was the arrogant young man who once flaunted designer clothes and shiny jewelry. Now, he looked stripped of everything: his status, his freedom, his pride. Whispers swirled in the courtroom. Is this really T's son? Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others muttered with anger. The prosecutors didn't waste a single second. They painted King as much more than just a celebrity kid gone astray. They laid out the evidence like a damning display. Cocaine hidden beneath the BMW seats, marijuana sealed in bags, illegal pills stacked up like merchandise, and a loaded firearm tied into the mess. But then came the bombshell: the testimony from police, revealing that this wasn't some small-time personal use case. No, it was something far worse. The arresting officer's chilling words rang out. "This looks like organized distribution." He wasn't just carrying drugs, he was moving them. Those words hit the courtroom like a thunderclap. Fans who once defended King as a reckless, misguided kid now had to face the harsh reality. The man standing before them was accused of trafficking. The internet was accused of trafficking. The internet, yeah, it erupted in flames. Memes, reaction videos, and hashtags like #DrugLordSon and #TISHAME spread like wildfire, and the fury was palpable. But here's the kicker: it wasn't just the drugs that set everyone off. Enter the mystery passenger, the man seen fleeing from King's BMW. That shadowy figure became the center of a growing conspiracy. Witnesses swore they saw him vanish into the shadows. Yet somehow, police refused to release his identity or even the footage of his escape. The speculation: was this an undercover dealer protected by corrupt cops? Was he connected to the Harris family? Or even worse, was King just the fall guy? While the real criminal slipped away into the night, bloggers, podcasters, and YouTubers ripped the case apart, accusing law enforcement of covering up a bigger fish while pinning everything on King. One viral clip showed a commentator shouting, if this was any ordinary kid, they'd bury him under the jail. But because it's T's son, they're hiding the truth. That clip, it hit over 3 million views in just 24 hours. Back in the courtroom, T sat stone-faced, trying to hold it together. But witnesses swore they saw him shaking his head in disbelief as the prosecutor replayed the body cam footage. The images were damning police, pulling out drugs, stacking them on the hood of the car, each bag a nail in King's coffin. Then came the defense. King's lawyer fought tooth and nail, claiming the drugs weren't his, that the firearm was legally registered, and that the whole case was based on nothing but speculation. But at that point, it didn't seem like anyone was listening. The defense's arguments? Weak, to say the least. They tried to shift the focus, throwing out the mysterious passenger theory, suggesting that King was taking the fall for someone else's crimes. They hinted the drugs were planted, pointed to supposed gaps in the body cam footage, and even suggested that corruption was at play. But the prosecution wasn't having any of it. They came back swinging. Ladies and gentlemen, King Harris isn't a victim. He's a dealer. He's a criminal who thought his last name would protect him. And today, justice will prove him wrong. That speech? It left the courtroom cold as ice. Even T, the man who'd fought his way through every battle life threw at him, looked utterly shattered. His daughter clutched his arm, whispering through her tears, as the weight of the trial crushed not just King, but the entire Harris family. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, the media pulled out the big guns. Old Instagram live videos resurfaced King laughing, waving guns around while speeding through the streets, threatening strangers and mocking authority. Those clips were now playing side by side with his mugshot, painting a picture of a young man spiraling into disaster. The public narrative quickly shifted from innocent until proven guilty to this was inevitable. But the real bombshell came from within. A leaked report revealed that federal investigators were now looking into ties between King's arrest and a massive cross-state drug trafficking operation. Suddenly, whispers turned into full-blown headlines. Was King Harris connected to something much bigger? If true, this could drag the Harris name into the darkest, most scandalous corner of the hip-hop world. The night before the verdict, absolute chaos erupted online. Fans were losing their minds. The public split into two fierce camps. Some fans begged for mercy, arguing that King was a young father who deserved a second chance. Others weren't so forgiving, calling him a disgrace to his father's legacy. One heartbreaking comment read, "T told us years ago this would happen. He begged his son to change. Now look, it's too late." And then came Judgment Day. The courtroom was packed, reporters, fans, legal experts, all anxiously awaiting the moment that would change everything. As the judge entered, the air thickened. Every single person held their breath. The gavel struck, and the sentence was handed down: 5 years in state prison. The room erupted in chaos. Gasps filled the space. Reporters scrambled for their phones, eager to capture every moment. King bowed his head, his face cold and expressionless, as if he hadn't fully processed the reality of his situation. But the real heartbreak, it unfolded in the front row. Witnesses swear T clutched his chest, his body shaking before collapsing into his chair. His daughter's screams sliced through the courtroom, echoing off the walls. Family rushed to his side, tears streaming as King was led away in handcuffs. Cameras captured every second, and within minutes, the footage went viral. Headlines screamed across every screen. T collapses as son gets 5 years. Hip-hop dynasty destroyed by drugs and guns. King Harris sentenced. Father breaks down in court. What should have been a private moment of grief turned into the spectacle of the century. Millions watched as T, once the king of the South, was reduced to tears, his dreams shattered as his son's future was stolen from him. The Harris family name, once synonymous with music, success, and power, was now chained to scandal, shame, and tragedy. The world was left asking, is this the end of a dynasty? Or just the beginning of something darker? Was this the beginning of something even darker? The courtroom, which had already been filled with tears, silence, and heartbreak, now descended into a scene so raw, so emotionally overwhelming that even the people sitting inside could barely breathe. When the judge struck down the final sentence, confirming King Harris's 5-year prison term, it wasn't just King's life that shattered. No. It was the entire Harris family's world falling apart in slow motion. Tiny rushed forward, tears streaming down her face, desperately trying to hold her husband together, as though her touch alone could stitch his broken soul back together. But how do you comfort a father who's just seen his son thrown into a cage for 5 long years? How do you console a man who spent a lifetime building an empire only to watch it crumble right before his eyes? King Harris, standing there in handcuffs, turned his head, and for one agonizing second, father and son locked eyes. A son and a father, separated by iron chains, by the brutal hand of justice, and by choices that would haunt them both forever. King tried to hold his head high, but his lips trembled, his eyes burned red, and the painful reality of his youth being stolen from him hit harder than any punch. That single glance, it was enough to haunt the entire room for an eternity. Outside the courtroom, chaos erupted. Fans screamed, chanting King's name, demanding mercy. Reporters shoved microphones into anyone's face, desperate for a reaction. Twitter went wild with hashtags. Hashtag pray for King, hashtag justice for Harris, hashtag T breaks down, and within minutes, the footage of T.I.'s collapse spread across every platform. Millions of views. Less than an hour. People weren't just watching a trial, they were witnessing the utter destruction of a family unfold. Live. Inside, the judge's words kept echoing like a curse. 5 years, for a young man still trying to figure out who he was. 5 years for the son of a father who spent his whole life trying to protect him from exactly this fate. King's 5-year sentence didn't just feel like punishment, it felt like a death sentence. Not just for him, but for anyone who ever believed that the Harris family represented resilience. Backstage, Tiny collapsed into her mother's arms, her voice trembling as she whispered, "We can't survive this. This will kill us." She wasn't crying just for her son. She was crying for her husband, for their family name, for a legacy now drowning in scandal and tragedy. Meanwhile, the prosecutors in the corner couldn't help but smirk, satisfied with their victory. They didn't just win a case, they destroyed an icon's family. They didn't just sentence a boy. They left an indelible scar on a dynasty. But the tragedy didn't end in that courtroom. Outside, chaos erupted. Supporters clashed with police, holding up posters of King, screaming for his freedom. Fans fainted as news anchors broke the story of T.I.'s collapse, as though it were a national emergency. TV commentators argued live on air. Was this justice? Or was this systemic punishment aimed at a hip-hop family that dared to live out loud? One eyewitness said it felt like watching a funeral happen while the person was still alive, because that's exactly what it was. King's arrest wasn't just a sentence, it was the burial of dreams. The burial of a father's hope. The burial of a family spirit. The prison van arrived, cold, metallic, and unforgiving. When King stepped into it, chains rattling with every move. His mother's scream was so raw and piercing that security had to physically hold her back. That scream wasn't just noise, it was the sound of a mother's soul breaking apart. And T, standing there, powerless. He couldn't move. He just sat there, shattered, as his entire world crumbled before him. T sat on the curb outside the courthouse. Head buried in his hands, his body shaking as though the weight of the world had come crashing down on him. Fans gathered around trying to console him. But how do you console a man who's lost his son to the very system he spent decades fighting against? This wasn't just a celebrity scandal. This was tragedy in its rawest form. A father broken, a son shackled, a family destroyed, and a legacy shattered. Cameras rolled, tears streamed, and the internet absolutely exploded. But amid all that chaos, the Harris family was left with nothing but silence, emptiness, and pain that no headline could ever truly capture. Behind every trending hashtag, behind every viral clip, there was a brutal reality that left scars on everyone who witnessed it. T's collapse wasn't just a moment, it was a chapter of history written in heartbreak. And now, ask yourself, we just watched a father fall apart, a son dragged away in chains, and a mother scream as though her very soul had been ripped out of her chest. This isn't just news, this is raw tragedy. A living nightmare unfolding before millions of eyes and breaking the internet in half. King Harris isn't just serving 5 years. He's serving a sentence that will haunt his bloodline for generations to come. T.I. is no longer just a rapper. He's a broken father watching his empire crumble in the very moment he needed strength the most. Tiny isn't just a mother. She's a grieving woman, helplessly watching her family fall apart as the cameras keep rolling. This is more than a story. This is history. The collapse of a legacy? A tragedy so explosive, so viral, that people around the world can't look away. And the worst part? It's only just begun. But hold up, this is just the beginning. Every tear shed today, every scream that echoed outside that courtroom, every hashtag trending across social media, it's all pointing towards something far darker. Something much bigger, something that no one could have predicted. So don't even think about scrolling. Don't look away. The Harris family saga. Oh, it's just getting started. And trust me, it's about to explode in ways that will leave the world absolutely speechless. If you thought today was shocking, if you thought watching T collapse was too much to handle, then buckle up, you're not ready for what's coming next. Stay locked in. Stay watching. Because this story, this devastating tragedy, is far from over. And when the next chapter drops, the world as you know it will never be the same again.